I think happiness and what it means to be happy or what it takes to be happy, that's a whole nother topic. But one model that a friend and colleague and I have thought of for this gap is that let's say, okay, let's take it to the extreme for a second, okay? And let's take someone, doesn't matter if they're man, woman, whatever, but they're in love with themselves. They love who they are. They think they're amazing. They think like really like they're flawless, okay? Again, taking this to the extreme. If that's what I think about myself, think of the level, quality of life that I would strive to have, right? If I'm a king, I need a kingdom. I need a queen. And if it's the other way around, if I don't value myself at all, right? Again, taking it to the extreme, I might be happy with whatever life I have. So again, just one model, one way to think about it. But I'm finding that these two set of questions is a nice way for people to examine where they are.
Before we dive into today's episode, please hit that subscribe button. Your support helps us grow and inspire more people on their journeys. Thank you. Hello, Lior. Thank you for joining us today and welcome to the show.
Hi, Thomas. Thank you. Great to be here.
So, Lior, for those who don't know you, can you please introduce yourself?
Of course. My name is Lior Ziv. I'm a clinical and social psychologist based in Tel Aviv, Israel. And I've been posting on LinkedIn for about 4 months now.
To be honest, it's hard to believe. I would say that if I didn't know you and if we didn't speak before this, I would think that you've been there for a long time, judging from your quality content, engagement, and great presence.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I literally didn't know anything about LinkedIn heading into September of this year. And I just stumbled upon it, to be honest, having thought for a long time that I want to expand my work outside of the clinic. So selling man hours, not the most scalable, kind of a zero-sum game. Not that I don't enjoy the work tremendously, but having spent some time in tech and in the startup ecosystem here in Israel, and having the luxury to take some time off over the past 6 months traveling to Southeast Asia,
Mhm.
I had in my mind to, okay, let's try and build something that would allow me to, build something more scalable than my clinic.
Mhm.
So LinkedIn just kind of fell into my lap as an amazing opportunity. And here I am.
But there are many platforms, so what made you to choose this one in particular?
So to be completely honest, social media and I aren't very good friends. I've never actually been on any social media platform, no Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. And LinkedIn just seemed like a platform once I got to know it a little bit that I could kind of both feel okay about actually spending time on the platform because I do think there's a lot, like you said, a lot of valuable content, a lot of great creators, and it still seems like an opportunity. It's not as saturated as the other platforms, right? So you're probably seeing posts on this just like I am. Not many creators on LinkedIn relative to other
Yeah,
platforms, so still a good place to start.
I feel like it's sometimes hard to believe because as we've been there for a while, you can see that there are a lot of people. But I've also seen recently some statistics and like I know research from the market. It's actually quite underused that there are not as many people. So it just made me surprised.
Yeah, it keeps surprising me as well. And I think one thing that's kind of important to understand about social media, LinkedIn and other platforms in general, is that each one of us has their own feed, right? And what you're seeing isn't what I'm seeing. What you and I are seeing isn't what somebody else is seeing. And, maybe you're seeing these stats on how LinkedIn is an opportunity and maybe only 3% are posting, right? Close to 3 million people. But other people aren't seeing that at all. And it's just kind of there are, I think, about 1 billion users signed up on LinkedIn,
Hmm.
about 300 million active, right, monthly. Each one of them, it's like their own little Truman Show.
Yeah.
That's how it is. A little exercise, and this is one of the, maybe you've seen one of the pillars, you could say, that I'm posting about lately, is just our relationship with the digital world and our phones and social media. And this is something that I've been interested in over the last maybe 5 or 6 years, having spent time at a healthcare startup, trying to understand how we can adjust, change, improve human behavior.
Hmm.
And this one little exercise that I like to tell people about on social media is just randomly take a friend's phone and start scrolling in their feed on Instagram, on TikTok, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, whatever. And just to get the feel of how different it is. It's
Mm.
literally, it's not the same game. It won't look like the same app to you.
It is
So,
true. I'm trying to imagine what it's like because you get like, as you said, Truman Show or your own bubble. Because, for example, from LinkedIn, you create, or many people do that. They create their own feeds, so you see content from the same people. And not going to lie, I don't really scroll like a main page anymore because it just a waste of time. Let's be honest. So it's a good idea if you check like someone else's to see what they are interested in, what people they follow, and what they want to see.
yeah. And how different it is from your reality, right? Understanding how these platforms just have the power to shape our thinking or shape our views on the world. And that's a whole nother issue.
Yeah.
But just from, a personal perspective, just kind of think about, okay, what I'm seeing isn't what my neighbor is seeing.
Hmm. And I think what's important or a good point is that then there is this saying that you are average of 5 people that you spend the most time with. So I think this is
Hmm.
also something similar that if you every day see the specific content, whether it's entertainment, I don't know, inspiration or education, that it probably affects you in a big way as well.
Yeah, for sure. I love that saying. And it actually sparked an idea for me, which I just started out with at the beginning of the year. Maybe you saw it. I think one of the really great things, just like you and I met via LinkedIn, is getting to know actual people on this
Hmm.
platform. And to be honest, I don't know how much of that happens on a professional level in other platforms. I think from what I understand, Instagram has become just like a Tinder, like a semi-dating platform.
Yeah, trying to paint unrealistic picture.
Yeah. And that's probably why that little trend of how it looks on Instagram, how it looks in real life started, right? Kind of the truth behind all of it. But so back to that beautiful saying about you being the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So I've decided to showcase, you could say, 5 new connections that I'm making on LinkedIn every month
Hmm.
and giving them the opportunity via my profile, right? My posts to showcase their expertise, what they're doing on LinkedIn,
Hmm.
what kind of things they're passionate about. And
Yeah.
hopefully by the end of the year, we'll have 5 a month, which is 60 altogether. And kind of a team of new connections, new people
Yeah.
that are just doing really great stuff. And people deserve kind of
Hmm.
to get to know them. So,
That's a great idea, and I think also beautiful gesture because if I imagine if I was someone starting out on LinkedIn and there was a creator like you who would, connect with me and even give me some visibility or shout out or something like that, it just, you know, great boost to continue and at the same time, just I would say like motivation that there are nice people and just continue with the platform. So it sounds great.
yeah. Exactly. I completely agree with that. And I think one more thing that I'm finding in that same spirit on LinkedIn is that I have the feeling, and this is, I think, mutual for you and I as well, because look at what we're doing now. So the feeling I'm having is that everybody wants to win, but everybody wants to win together. Like, I want to win, I want you to win. If you're winning, then that's
Yeah.
probably saying that I'm going to be winning as well. Definitely us recording a podcast like this. And that's just a really great community and feeling to be part of.
Yeah.
And and we can even kind of nudge each other and help each other to win just by commenting on each other's posts, right? Because we know that's
Hmm.
positive. So if I see or if I get in touch with someone and we're like, okay, let's support each other, even just commenting on someone else's post, that's support. And that's
Yeah.
showing, okay, yeah, I I'm behind you in your journey.
I agree. And I think that's also something that I usually or always try to emphasize is that it's important to have fun on LinkedIn because not going
Mm,
to lie, it's not fun or easy to show up every day, comment on people's posts and do it just every day. But if you find someone who's supposed to enjoy, who you like to talking to, and maybe their content is just valuable too, it just makes it much easier. And as you said, if you find people like that, it just makes it much easier. So it would be my advice for people.
for sure. 100% agree with that.
And before, as we discussed, like for example, created feed on LinkedIn, what are some people that you follow, or if you don't want to name any specific ones, what type of content do you enjoy?
So I think I'll give the content that I'm enjoying, mainly because I don't want to miss anybody that I would mention.
Yeah.
So I think everything that has to do with relationships, which is something I'm, very much into as a psychologist, and to be honest, kind of obsessing about lately, mainly in the AI era. And maybe we can expand on that a bit later. But anybody who's posting evidence-based advice or content on relationships in the workplace or outside of the workplace, right? Because at the end of the day, LinkedIn, most of the content is in the context of business and workplace.
Yeah.
So I love to see that kind of content. Any content which is original in, you could say, self-improvement. I don't love the term productivity. I think productivity is huge on LinkedIn, and I understand why. But I think like the Western work culture has taken that kind of to an extreme, whereas one of the things, in my opinion, we should be doing is helping people to disconnect and unplug so they can actually, when they're on, they can actually be effective. And I
Hmm.
like the term effective more than I do productive. And then the last thing, and this is huge on LinkedIn, and I think it's become definitely very saturated, but I think it's there for a reason, and that's leadership. And from my perspective, I like there's this saying I came up with, I think, and I just posted about it. Um, so I'm a child psychologist, and I work a lot with parents. And one of the big challenges for parents these days is that they're literally juggling a 100% position as a worker, right? In tech, business, freelance, whatever. And then they have a 200% role as a parent at home. So that's a
Hmm.
really big juggle to make. And what's kind of nice to think about is, and this is what the saying goes, how it goes, not all leaders are parents, but all parents are leaders. So there's a couple meanings, there are a couple ways that you can look at this. One is that once you become a parent, and full disclosure, I'm not a parent yet, but once you become a parent, then you kind of automatically step into these shoes as a leader because now you're leading a family. And maybe you could also say that even just, and this is not just, but just as a partner, being in a relationship, you become some sort of leader in a sense, right? So now these skills that you just have to kind of own as a parent, being empathetic, knowing when to let go, seeing what's behind behavior with your children. Just like three very, very basic, right, that I'm naming here. If I translated these abilities or skills to the business world or to the workforce, then just skills every leader needs to have anyway, right? So LinkedIn is full of posts on leading with empathy. As a parent, that's literally what you do every day at home. And then either you do or you don't need to do it at work, right? Depending on your role, and also depending if you want to keep doing it at work, right? I think a lot of parents would prefer to, not necessarily be the leaders they are at home at work.
That's true. And so if you speak with people like this, I would be curious, what are maybe some common problems that people approach you with and you help them to figure out? Obviously, there will be many, but some most common ones, or were those that are worth mentioning?
So let me focus on one which I've been researching lately. Let's talk about parental leave. So essentially, let's take the States as an example, right? So a lot of US based LinkedIn users. And essentially, and again, let's focus on tech because again, a lot of tech users on LinkedIn. So most companies have parental leave policy, right? And parental leave policy essentially gives any parent, and maybe over the last decade or so, we've come to call it parental leave, right? And not maternity leave. So essentially, it gives the parent, father or mother, the time, hopefully paid, to take off once they have a newborn child. And I think what a lot of people are starting to realize, and this is just a start, is that this is complicated and has become a pain point for, you could say, three stakeholders in the work environment. Okay, so the most obvious one starting out, and this is what I'm getting as a therapist, it's just a difficult transition to make as a parent, especially a first time parent, right? So if now I need to leave my job for 3, 6, 9, sometimes 12 months, literally disconnect from my team, whatever I'm working on, my manager, my career trajectory, and suddenly go and take care of this little creature that has come into the world. And this is just, basically my world is turned upside down. I'm not sleeping.
Mhm.
I'm probably not eating well. I'm probably not exercising. Depending on where I live, I do have or don't have support from, grandparents, family, friends. So this is just, you know, a really complicated point in a parent's life. And then the second stakeholder, and I think it goes without saying that at least emotional support is something that could definitely benefit these parents, right? So emotional support could
Yeah, yeah.
be one-on-one therapy, one-on-one coaching, group therapy, group coaching, and any number of other options. And there are options, okay? So that's the first and most obvious stakeholder. Second stakeholders are, let's say I'm the parent leaving, now my team members, okay, and maybe I'm at a relatively small startup or a corporate job, doesn't matter. I'll definitely have a team, right?
Mhm.
Now we have to take on this workload. Is it mediated to us in that way? Do we just kind of pick it up when somebody leaves? Are we already burning out and now we have a whole nother person's
Yeah,
workload?
even more workload.
Yeah, right. And burnout is a huge issue on LinkedIn and in the working reality, obviously. And that's kind of pushing burnout, I think, even to more to the extreme. And what I was getting, and I'm still getting through this research, is just like really, really strong negative emotions from those team members towards the parent leaving. Like literally people telling me, I hate her. I hate her for leaving. Now I have to do all her work.
Yeah, then it makes the person almost feel guilty, right?
Oh,
That they,
scratch the
yeah.
almost,
Yeah, it's a shame.
right? And then you have the team manager or lead. And a lot of times in tech, this isn't going to be a parent necessarily. So they themselves haven't gone through it, don't know what it feels like, and essentially are kind of clueless as to how am I going to deal with this, right? So some questions that
Mhm.
I've heard is, what do I do as far as communicating with this worker that has left for a couple of months? Do I keep them in the loop? Do I update them on what's happening? Do I invite them to, let's say, team events? Do I keep them updated as to how I see them coming back, when I see them coming back, and so on and so forth? And then the other side of that is, how do I support my team, right?
Mhm.
Do I go upstairs and ask for a temporary replacement so my team doesn't get burned out? Is that something that I know will get a no in the first place, so I don't
Yeah,
even go and ask, and I just sit my team down and say, okay, what are we going to do about this? I'll take some of the workload as a manager, and then we'll split up the rest. So I think you get where I'm going with this, right? This is a problem. This is a pain
yeah.
point. And depending on where you are in the Western world, between 15 and 25% of women don't return to work, full-time work after maternity leave. And this is women, okay? So if we're talking and thinking about retention, and this could be a really high value employee for you, right? Then that's another issue to look at.
I know that this is a complex topic and definitely differs on specific scenarios where we are based on many other factors, but what would be some maybe key steps or some standard like a procedures to do to make it easier, to make it smoother and overall kind of more positive experience?
So I think like a lot of things in the workplace and just in life in general, it starts with communication, right? You as a manager, you as the parent leaving, you as the other team members, you just have to communicate where you are, what you're feeling, what you need, right? So if I'm the parent that's leaving or that's about to leave and I'm anxious about what is this going to mean about my career trajectory and my position advancement, then I have to communicate that to my manager, right? And if I'm anxious about coming back once I'm already on leave, anxious about readjusting how it's going to look, I have to communicate that to my manager. And as a manager, I have to make sure that this channel is open so everybody feels comfortable to just talk about this. So, first step, like in many other complicated situations that work, communication. Second step, and this is what's beautiful about it, it's relatively easy to address this issue, right? So if you put in, and let's also maybe give this a title, right? So most of companies have policy, but policy within itself isn't enough. You need to actually offer support. That means support for your managers. So manager training once a year, once every 6 months, just to give them the tools that they need to deal with this issue. And you can just set really, really simple steps and guidelines for how you deal with the parent that's leaving and how you will actually have them feeling like they're kind of supported end to end.
Hmm.
So just start with, and these are just examples off the top of my head, right? And I'm at the research phase, not yet at the solving phase. But one thing you
Hmm.
could do is, have maybe like a little farewell party,
Mm. Yeah.
right? Just let's kind of note that this is happening, note what it means.
Hmm.
Once they're on leave, then you could, and this should definitely be optional, but you could update the parent if there's a team celebration, if there's a big workplace update, just kind of have, regular scheduled updates every 2, 3 months, depending on how long of a leave they're taking and so on.
Yeah.
If they're coming back, maybe assign, a transition buddy, you could call it, right?
Hmm.
Or call it re-onboarding, because it's a re-onboarding, right? Like if I was away for 6 months, now I have to readjust, re-onboard. So
Yeah.
just a couple of examples. And I think what's really important to understand, and this is what I'm seeing through this research, is everybody has this story with their own parental leave, right? So I'm seeing really senior executives that felt that even though they're, obliged, they have the policy in place for themselves, they couldn't afford to take more than a week. So now their new
Mm.
new baby was born and they're back to work in a week. So and a lot more stories
So,
that I'm seeing. So just recognizing
mhm.
this as a pain point, I think.
I was going to add that, of course, it could be topic on its own. That, but I think that it also comes to the culture, because if there is like a nice and welcoming environment, then I guess that the person shouldn't, or there is a less chance that will feel guilty to go on the leave. Because if there is a like nice culture, I would assume that people will be supportive and like keep in touch and nice and everything. So I think there might be something wrong already with the culture, which then makes the rest wrong. But obviously, it's again probably depends on specific situations.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Culture is huge. And I think this is maybe like a sensitive situation, right? That people who haven't really experienced it aren't completely sure how to approach. Like you said,
Hmm.
if I'm, if I'm part of a really kind of open and communicative culture, still, if I haven't really experienced what it means to be like a first-time parent now, I'm not sure. Should I reach out? Should I not? Do they want to hear from me as their team member? Are they like, I don't want to hear
Yeah,
about anything related to work?
it's true. It always makes it different if you've experienced it or not.
Want to take your podcast to the next level? At Epic Story, we help you launch, improve, and market your podcast with expert guidance. Whether you're just starting out or refining an existing show, we've got you covered. Visit epicstory.digital and bring your epic story to life.
And maybe move from this topic. I know that we could discuss it much more, but something that I was really curious about is when I was doing a bit of research about you, is that before in your career that you were actually in the army and then you moved to this new area, if I'm not mistaken. So then what made you to do such a big career change?
So first of all, army in Israel is mandatory.
Mhm.
So as
Yeah, that's a valid point.
yeah, so I had to go, and men spend about 3 years mandatory service. I ended up
Mhm.
spending 9 years,
Yeah, that
and
may be the reason why I wanted to ask, because I saw that it's been quite long.
Yeah. So I spent about 9 years as an officer in the Israeli army. And what's funny, I think, is that if you had asked me at 17 or 18, would I do one day more than the mandatory 3 years, I would definitely have said no way. And then I ended up for 9 years in the army at a place where I just felt that I'm developing a lot as a person, as a human being, as a professional. And if I go back, by the way, to that great saying you brought in of the average of the five people you spend the most time with, I think that's primarily what it was about for me. I was just at a place where there were amazing people around me. I had a chance to learn every single day in an environment where people kind of pushed me to be, kind of at the top of my game. And when I left the army, and this is also an interesting idea to think about, and this also kind of comes back to a set of two questions with which I'm kind of dealing with today in in my personal and professional life, and have also been talking about with a lot of friends and colleagues of mine. So here it is. I spent 9 years in the army, right? In one specific unit, one place, didn't move around. And if you ask me today, are you happy to have done that service? My answer flat out would be yes, I'm happy to have done it. And then a lot of times, the follow-up question would be if you had a son or a daughter, would you want them to go follow in your footsteps, do the same service in that same unit? And the answer there isn't as straightforward, right? And I think that's an interesting perspective, not only on this specific, service that I did, but on life in general. And I think maybe like the, you could say 2.0 version of these two questions that I'm asking people, and I think would be interesting, for you or for anyone else to think about is how much do you like the person that you are today? That's one question. And then the second question is how much do you like the life that you're living today? And it's interesting, I think, to think if there's a gap there, right? If one of the questions is easier for you to answer, you feel maybe better about yourself than you do about your life, or the other way around, it's interesting to think, okay, wait, why aren't these things aligned? And they might be aligned, by the way. They might just be aligned, and then maybe there's not a lot to discuss. And what I've found, and this is, nothing scientific, but just from sharing this with a lot of friends and loved ones and colleagues, is that a lot of time for women, the answer to the first question comes with comes with a load, right? It's a journey for a lot of women to feel good about who they are. But for the second question, if you ask them about how good they feel about their lives today, then it's pretty straightforward. Most of who I've talked to, women, felt that wasn't a question they had to think about very much. And then a lot of times for men, it's the other way around. You know what I mean? I don't know if where that, you know, where it meets you, if you think about that.
Well, just as you said that, I was thinking about my scenario, and I was, I don't know, doing quick overview of my life and of where I am. But I was still listening, so please, you can continue because it was very interesting.
No, no, go ahead. So what did you think? What did you think of?
I thought maybe after the recording, I don't know if I change my how I would answer, but I was going to say that for the first question, I would probably say yes, that I'm happy. But with the second one, I would say right now probably not really, but it's not as a complaint. It's something that I know what to work on, and like that I'm on a path and trying to improve. So I know that I'm not happy right now, but at the same time, I'm trying to work on it and, not just sit here and complain about my life and hope that suddenly it improves on its own.
I feel you. I really do. I mean, I understand that place. I think happiness and what it means to be happy or what it takes to be happy, that's a whole nother topic, right? But one model that a friend and colleague and I have thought of for this gap is that let's say, okay, let's take it to the extreme for a second, okay? And let's take someone, doesn't matter if they're man, woman, whatever, but they're in love with themselves. They love who they are. They think they're amazing. They think like really like they're flawless, okay? Again, taking this to the extreme.
Yeah,
If that's what I think about myself, think of the, you know, level quality of life that I would strive to have,
need for that.
right? If
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, if I'm a king, I need
Mm.
a kingdom. I need a queen, and so on and so forth, right?
Yeah, it's like raising unrealistic expectations or setting the bar maybe way too high.
Yeah, yeah. And if it's the other way around, if I don't value myself at all, right? Again, taking it to the extreme, if I don't value myself at all, I might be happy with whatever life I have because, I don't even deserve to,
It is true.
right? So again, just one model, one way to think about it. But I'm finding that these two set of questions is a nice way for people to kind of examine where they
Mm.
are.
Yeah, it will definitely leave me thinking after our recording and for a while. And if you don't mind me asking, would you mind answering these two questions as well?
Yeah, definitely. So I think from a very young age, and again, I'm a psychologist, a child psychologist, let's remind everyone. From a very young age, I had this sort of inner confidence in myself that, I have this set of, you could say, abilities that I feel good about. And throughout my life and my experiences and my professional work and my studies in academia, I still felt this and kind of added on to this confidence. But what I've found over the last maybe year or year and a half, especially with the very difficult days here in Israel, as a country, as a society, is that there wasn't enough alignment to my liking between that confidence and how I feel about my life. And over the past year, and I think I might have been telling you about this earlier, I spent almost 8 months outside of Israel. And I had the luxury of just experiencing what it means to live as an adult in Southeast Asia and specifically in Thailand. And I'm saying as an adult because I was born in Israel but grew up in the States. So I had that experience as a child,
Mm.
but
Yeah.
not so much as an adult. And I'm saying this, I'm mentioning this in the context of these two questions because I've been in Israel for about 2 weeks now. And looking back, what I found is that that gap between those two questions, when I was in Thailand, it became smaller and smaller.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a
Yeah.
lot of reasons for that, which I won't go into now. But again, it's just another perspective of let's not take anything in our life just for granted. And definitely, definitely feel that we're choosing where we are, what we're doing, where we're living, how we spend our time. And this is a luxury. And I understand that it's a luxury, definitely, of the Western capitalistic world, okay? People in poverty aren't
Mm-hmm.
asking themselves these questions. But I think we need to own that. I mean, it is a luxury. We have it, and that's our starting point. So we need to ask these questions. We need to make sure we don't just kind of slide into this life with like, just the energy that keeps it rolling and not having really feeling that we're choosing what we want to do and where we want to be.
Hmm. Yeah, will be a lot of thinking after this recording. So great wisdom. And then still, if we can come back, if you were happy or enjoyed it and it was fulfilling for you to work in the army, what still made you to quit?
So one of the most difficult aspects of the work I did in the army, and I think this goes for some of the professional world as well, was that a lot of the work was secretive. And from a well-being perspective, from a relationship perspective, from like a pure soul and mind angle, that just wasn't worth it. And I think people in any number of situations find themselves or create for themselves a reality where they keep secrets. And I think all of us have secrets, right? And
Mhm.
there's also, and again, as a psychologist, I'll say it flat out, there's also something healthy about being able to kind of hold on to a truth or a part of your life or a part of someone else's life, right, who you care for, and just hold that as a secret or as something that you're saving for them or for yourself. Because there's a connection there. There's a bond that's made over that. But for me, and for a lot of my friends, we spent almost a decade in that reality, and we understood at a very young age that that's just not how we want to live our lives, and specifically not how we want to create and maintain our relationships. So, like I said at the beginning, as a psychologist and just as a human being, I'm kind of obsessed with relationships lately, especially understanding that healthy, long-lasting relationships are literally the one thing that affects our health and longevity before anything else. So, having that in mind, it was an easy decision, right?
Yeah, makes sense. That's and just to be aware of time, what are your plans for the future? Whether it's with your clinic, whether it's with LinkedIn, or even other plans outside?
I love that question because it's like asking what's your dream?
Yeah, you can say that.
Yeah. And I especially like to think about it these days because it's evolved so much from the time I started just posting on LinkedIn until now, and it keeps evolving. Like it keeps changing. So what I'm seeing for my future is just kind of a combination between clinical work, which I love doing and I'm going to continue to do, because I really, really, really believe in the power of working on ourselves and our lives through connection, through the connection with a therapist, live, physical, inside the room, just kind of unmediated human connection. And that's the practice of psychotherapy, dynamic psychotherapy, is working to kind of reveal unconscious or subconscious parts of our lives and our souls through the connection, through the relationship with the therapist. And I really, really believe in that work. I've seen it be transformative for myself as a patient and have kind of the honor of doing it as a therapist as well. So that's definitely going to be part of my life. The other part, and that's I think maybe one that I've become even more excited about, is how I help people more at scale. And that's going to be a suite of, you could say, kind of the creator business model. So just this week, I started out, and I think you signed up to my brand new newsletter on
Yeah,
relationships.
I was going to say that. I wish I signed up earlier. I don't know. I haven't noticed, so maybe it was a different brand before, but I encourage people to sign up as well.
Yes, thank you for that. So definitely sign up. Relationship recipes once a week, every Sunday. And I just explore all kinds of relationships, any shapes, forms, kinds. And it's a really, really fresh perspective. So, and I think, you know, taking people off platform, off social media, and kind of owning them as an email list. And, I'm not kind of ashamed to say this. It's an asset, right? It's an asset that you want to create. So definitely hoping and kind of directing that to be a big part. And then with another couple of offerings for the business world, right? So, we spoke a lot about parental leave. I think there's a lot of work to do in that space. And I'm kind of transitioning from the research to the solution, which I'm going to be offering. And the third thing, which I'm also very excited about, is just kind of exploring relationships in the AI era. And I'm working on just a talk, a lecture on this issue because I think, there's a lot of moonshots when it comes to AI. Like,
Yeah.
where can AI go? Where can AI take us? It's a race, it's a hype. I haven't really heard a lot of moonshots on human relationships, connection, where we're going. And it's a big issue, which we won't go into now,
Hmm.
obviously. But those are maybe the three things that I'm going to humbly try to add to my clinic.
Hmm. Yeah, it sounds great. And just to add to the I agree and understand that. I feel like it's exciting or a lot happening already, and I know that tomorrow it's going to be even more and in the future. So there always will be something to discover and explore.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
And to follow up on the newsletter that we discussed, can you summarize or promote any of your services and where people can find you, follow you, and just get in touch?
Of course. Sure. So, best place to find me is on LinkedIn. So just search for my name, Lior Ziv. Via my LinkedIn, in my featured section, you can find my newsletter, Relationship Recipes, really easy to sign up. And then we communicate via email, like I said, once a week, every Sunday, really fresh perspective on relationships. And if you're an HR executive, chief people officer, just an executive leading a team, then definitely reach out to me on LinkedIn so we can talk about your parental leave support on top of your policy. And yeah, I think that's it for me.
Hmm. And I said that before we started recording, but I mentioned that as someone who's been following Leo for a while, I feel like that if there are, of course, don't copy him, but if there are people sharing similar content as he does, then the LinkedIn will be much nicer place. And I'm pretty sure not only LinkedIn, if people actually would take that advice outside as well. So I just encourage people to follow and support.
Thank you. I
And
love how you framed that. Thank you.
and maybe one of the last questions: what is it that you actually enjoy doing in your free time?
Okay, short answer, because you know we're at the end of
I
this
don't have free
podcast.
time.
Yeah, no, not at all. Sometimes people view me as one of those people who has more than 24 hours in a day. I don't feel that at all. But I'm just gonna put three things out there. I love basketball. I've always loved playing basketball from a young age. I feel when I'm on the court, that's probably the most free. that I've ever felt.
Mm.
That's one. Two, I love reading. I know it's cliche, but I do. And at every given moment, I'm probably reading 4 or 5 books at a time. It's like like there's, and in the spirit of disconnecting from devices and our phones, so I literally have a book in every place that I either sit down or lie down. And it's there, right? There's one on the sofa, one in bed, couple in bed probably, one in the bathroom, one in my car,
Yeah,
one in my backpack. So there's always a book somewhere. And the third thing is just spending time in nature.
yeah. And then quick follow-up questions. What's your favorite NBA team?
I'm gonna have to say Philadelphia just because I grew up there.
I don't follow it as much, but in case someone does, to know if they should support you or not. No, I'm
That's
just
good.
joking.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Then obviously the tough one, but can you pick maybe three most impactful books or some that you would recommend people to read?
I think Sapiens is one of the best I've ever read by Yuval Noah Harari.
Aren't you biased since he's Israeli as well?
I might be, but I really do think it's a masterpiece. It's a masterpiece. So
Mhm.
that's one. For fiction, I love everything and anything by Haruki Murakami, Japanese author, and probably specifically 1Q84.
No idea. I will check it out.
Yeah, he just creates a world within a world where you feel that it's just a reality that actually
Mhm.
exists. And I have to say Harry Potter as well. I grew up
Oh, that's a
loving,
beautiful one. I wasn't expecting that. Yeah.
yeah, I have to. If
Hmm.
you have children,
Yeah,
or
that's.
not only, but just go read Harry Potter if you haven't.
Hmm. And then, have you got favorite destination, like a place you travel to or would like to travel to?
So I'm a bit biased again because I just came back from there. But I think Thailand is an amazing destination. Italy is one of my favorites. I lived in Italy for a couple years, for a couple of months, and I have New Zealand on the wait list.
Hmm.
Haven't been there yet.
Yeah, me neither, but I have it on my list too. Then, before we finish, is there any final piece of advice or something I should have asked you and did not, or something you'd like to share before we finish?
I think one thing that I'm finding ever since I started on LinkedIn is that little cliche of leaving your comfort zone and growing and developing when you're outside of it is actually real. Like anybody who knows me would never have said that I would have become a social media content creator.
Mhm.
And to be honest, I would never have thought of myself. And it was really difficult to kind of jump over that barrier to begin with. But once you do it, and maybe this is kind of me advocating, just go do it, really. And
Mhm.
LinkedIn is a great place to start. And the huge plus is that you meet amazing people. And I think the testament to that is what we're doing here right now, right? You gave me the platform, and this is literally just because of my content, and I got to meet you and we got to know
Mhm.
each other. So
Yeah,
just another great thing about it. And
I completely agree. And as you say, without LinkedIn, we would probably never meet each other, or maybe somehow, and wouldn't know. I don't know. And stepping out of your comfort zone regularly, obviously, it's a big one. It's not easy, but that's how we grow, and that's how we discover new things. So I think that's a great point to finish with. So to say
yeah,
a big thank you, Lior. I think that we could continue for a long time. So maybe we can catch up anytime in the future again. It was some great stuff. I really enjoyed it. I also enjoy your content. And as I said before, I encourage people to follow and connect with you. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I really enjoyed it. And I like to say a lot of times that, like you said, we'll keep catching up. Let's see where we are in a year,
Yeah.
right? Let's remember where we were when we first met and recorded this one, and let's see where we are in a year.
Mhm. It will be like a nice recap and a sequel.
Thanks for listening to Produced By with Tommen. Check out show notes for all the links, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave your feedback. Speak soon.